March 18th meeting of the I-42 US 70 Corridor Commission to order. And I would like to welcome everybody. It's good to see some faces, even if it is on the computer. That's one step forward, so hopefully we can meet together before too long. Okay, Jennifer, would you do the roll call, please?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. I have a few that I can tell they're on here, but I'm just going to run down the member contact list and just let me know if you're here, please. Robin Comer?
Yes.
Mark Mansfield?
Here.
Jesse Vinson?
Here.
Don Kirkman?
Here.
Ryan Eagleston?
Here.
Tom Mark?
Here.
Danny Walsh? Jack Betts?
Here. Here.
Bobby Darden?
Here.
Donald Bumgardner? Donald
Here.
Raines?
Here.
Frank Price?
Here.
Ted Godwin?
I'm here.
Leanna Worley?
She had a meeting, a budget meeting, so she called yesterday. She won't make it.
Linda Sutton?
Here.
Hilly Kuntz? Felicia Solomon?
Here.
Bobby Wooten? I think he's on, right? I think
He
might
is
be.
on, yeah. He might be muted, but he is on.
Okay.
He's
Russell
in the
Rhodes?
room.
Chris Boyette? Freeman Hardison?
Here.
Chris Gurley?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Allen will not be with us today, but if we could all keep him in our prayers, I would really appreciate that. Jack Bess?
Here.
And with regards to NCDOT, those that I'd like to ensure are present, is Thomas Paff with us today? Hugh Overholt? Melvin Mitchell?
Here.
Ronnie Teeter?
I'm here, Jennifer.
Greg Burns?
Here.
Preston Hunter?
Here.
And Kevin Bowen.
I'm here.
All right, Miss Linda, that's it. You may proceed.
Okay, thank you so much, Jennifer. You all have received the minutes of the last meeting, the last virtual meeting. If I could get someone to make a motion to approve, unless there are some deletions or additions to or corrections to the minutes. And please state your name.
This is Jack Best. I move to approve it.
This
Thank
is
you,
Jesse
Jack.
Vinson. I second it.
There's a second.
Who was that seconded?
Jesse.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jesse and Jack. Any more questions or comments? If not, all of those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed likewise. Okay, at this time we will have a presentation on flood resiliency and studies. And Dur, would you want to introduce this?
Paxton Ramsell, who's been a frequent presenter, and he's involved in several. We've been talking about the water, seemed like for the last 3 years, but they're doing a study that he can't talk about today, but he'll just sort of give us a brief overview. We put him first because he's got a 2 o'clock meeting he's got to get to. So Paxton, if you'll share some ideas with us, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Nice to be with this group today. As said, my name is Paxton Ramsell. I'm a manager with Ecosystem Planning and Restoration in Raleigh. Our firm provides water resource engineering, environmental permitting, and stream and wetland restoration services. And I have to say I've participated with this group mainly in the audience over the past few years, and I just have to say how much I enjoy joining all of you. And always learn something new and look forward to when we can get back together in person. My comments are going to be brief today, and as Mr. Durwood mentioned, flooding has been and continues to be, a major threat in Eastern North Carolina to the residents there and infrastructure. And I do appreciate the leadership of this group, the commission, our state agencies, DOT and others, elected officials, really for pushing for solutions to these destructive flood events. And knock on wood, hopefully today won't be as bad as at least they were calling for a day or so ago. I spoke at a previous meeting, this was a couple of years back now, about how addressing, flooding requires some future-oriented risk data, resident input and support, and dedicated funding to implement solutions. Really all of these components, the data, the resident support, the solutions are challenging. Funding is often some of the hardest to secure, and I wanted to ensure that the Commission was aware of a funding opportunity that's currently open through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. It's a program called the National Coastal Resilience Fund. It has just over $30 million available for projects that reduce flooding and other hazards in ways that also improve the environment. So funding can go to a number of different projects. It could go to community planning, site assessment and design, project design and permitting, and then full implementation or construction of projects. And grants range from $250,000 to, I believe, about $5 million, again, depending on the project. Given that it is a coastal fund through, again, NIFWF or the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, there are geographic constraints for applicants. For those of us in the Neuse River Basin, I took a look at some of their materials, and it looks as though you can be about as far inland as the Goldsboro area. So it is primarily coastal, but it does extend inland a little ways. One thing I'll note is that pre-proposals are due April 7th, and that's a tight turnaround. But again, I wanted to ensure the group was aware of this opportunity, especially if folks have projects that they've been working on or have been working to address some of these hazards over the past years or few months. Recognizing that tight timeline, if this is not the right opportunity, it'd be interesting, as Durwood mentioned at a future meeting, it'd be good to share some updates of work that we have underway. I would enjoy the opportunity to share that with all of you. So with that, I'm going to stop. I'd be happy to answer any questions related to this opportunity, flood resilience, or other topics.
What's the local match on those?
Was the question, what is the match?
Yes, sir.
It's a 1-to-1 match. Now that can be cash, obviously, or it could be in kind. So that could be staff time to put towards projects.
Thanks, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Paxton, we really appreciate you being with us and look forward to hearing from you again in the future.
Great. Thank you very much.
Excuse me for interrupting. I think most of you are aware that there is a group that started, Paxton, we started about 2 years ago talking about.
That's right.
And we were meeting up until the pandemic hit us on a regular basis. It's an informal group that got together for lunch, and a lot of good came from it, and we're hoping to resume those as soon as the worst of the pandemic is passed. But we appreciate Paxton and his group kind of leading that effort. But been a lot of good information to come from that group.
Yeah, I look forward to getting back together. It'd be nice to see people, of course, but continuing those conversations is obviously very important.
A question?
Go ahead.
How do we determine what a project is? I mean, you say there's money available, and that's great, and up as far inland as Goldsboro, but how do you develop a project, decide where to go look for a project? Where does the projects come from?
That's a good question. And Durwood, perhaps I can share some information with you to distribute to the group. My read on I participated in a webinar, I think it was a week ago, is they're looking specifically for areas of known hazards, flooding or otherwise. And then they have different buckets, if you will, that you could apply for. And so that could be community-based planning. So working at, a neighborhood or probably a larger scale, having, say, a floodplain area that, could be used to site a stormwater pond. That might be something in the kind of full project area. There could be permitting needs that you have. But to give you a better answer, let me pull the materials and send that along. And then perhaps Durwood, if you or someone with the commission might be able to distribute that to the group. I don't want to misstate anything.
Appreciate that, Pax. If you'll get that to me, Jennifer will get it out to all the members. Thank you.
Yes.
Any more questions? If not, again, we thank you, Mr. Amstel. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Our State Board of Transportation report from was the general, was he online?
Apparently not. He thought he was going to be able to join us, but I don't know what's going on today. But he did confess to me. I think the Board of Transportation's been meeting virtually too. He's like us old folks like me. We don't like this kind of meeting, but I think he don't care for this kind of meeting. But we do have a new board member, Division 4 board member from Rocky Mount to join us, and we welcome him and comments from him. Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell.
Well, he was here a minute ago, Mr. Mitchell.
His microphone is off.
Needs to unmute himself.
He was unmuted earlier because I talked.
Yes.
There he is.
Yeah, technology
There
is something
you go.
else. Okay, thank you.
We're all learning.
Thank you, Chairwoman Sutton. And
Thank
good
you.
afternoon. It's a pleasure to speak with you. I joined the board last summer, and I'm honored to represent the people of Division 4. I've hit the ground running. NCDOT is doing a lot of great work. It's an exciting time to serve. We really appreciate what you all do. This commission is a strong advocate of improving transportation. The work makes our project better. Upgrading US 70 will help Eastern North Carolina. I-42 will bring new economic opportunities. It will improve travel time and traffic safety. Kevin Bowen and his staff are doing a great job. Kevin will be providing you updates on US 70's other projects of interest. Cash balance. Our budget was hit hard last year due to the COVID and other funding challenges. We had to delay many projects around the state, but we have turned the corner. Our finances have stabilized. We start letting projects again. The department has resumed preliminary work on several other projects. The board remains active and engaged. We are committed to budgeting conservatively and spending within our means. We need to be prepared for the unexpected. As a recent example, a single flash flood last year washed out Galilee Road near Smithfield. We're building to resilience. We replaced the washed out culvert on Galilee Road with a new bridge, $1.1 million. North Carolina First Commission last year, challenging for all of us. We saw firsthand just how vulnerable the gas tax is. Over half of our revenue came from gas tax. So it's not sustainable in long term. North Carolina maintained the second highest state-owned roadway mileage network in the country. Yet, our state spends significantly less per state-owned miles than almost any other state. Members of North Carolina First Commission has released their recommendations and a menu of options for long-term investment strategy for transportation. The work is critical to North Carolina economy. The commission understands our state will need to be competitive globally for generations to come. We're following what the legislature decided to do. Please stay engaged on the issues. You can find the report by going to our homepage at ncdot.gov and search NC First Commission at the top of the website. DMV headquarter move. In other exciting news, the Division of Motor Vehicle has recently completed its headquarters move to Rocky Mount. It brings over 450 jobs to Eastern North Carolina. The DMV has been working with the Chamber of Commerce, local colleges and universities, and job centers to identify good candidates. Over 300 people attended a DMV job fair last month. This is very exciting for the region. Move coincides with the pandemic, creating some extra challenges. DOT Secretary Eric Boyette and DMV Commissioner Tori Jessup, however, have worked hard to ensure the transition was a success. Thank you again for allowing me to speak. I'm so glad we have strong partnerships like yours. Thank you.
Are there any questions of Mr. Mitchell?
Good report, Mr. Mitchell. We're happy to have you aboard Division 4.
Thank you so
Yes.
kindly.
Yes, we are, and thank you so much for being with us on the call today. Darwood, I believe you have some introductions to make.
Yeah, well, I guess they're reintroductions. These are folks we have known. As many of you know, we've lost some good people, but we got some good people in the wings to come on. Our Chief Operating Officer now is Bo Memory, who will be making a presentation shortly. Bo was with DOT, left for a brief period, needed him back, so he was gracious enough to come back and join us. Ronnie Keeter is now the Chief Engineer. Tim Little left, and we've worked with a long time, and Ronnie was our Deputy East Chief, and so Ronnie is now our Chief Engineer, and Greg Burns, has joined us as Eastern Region Deputy now. So I welcome all three of them. Happy to have you aboard our team. And so I'll just let y'all go in order. Bo, kick us off. You're off.
Thank you, Chairman. And like Board Member Mitchell, I'm very appreciative of the time today and the partnership that this group has shown DOT and transportation over the years. Again, my name's Bo Memory. I came into this position in late January. And you know, as you know, the last 2 years have been hard on the department and the communities it serves. Nearly all activities from maintenance to construction were brought to a halt. There were hiring freezes and furloughs, and while those were hard on the employees, the stoppage of just basic maintenance activities and the investment in new construction took a toll on the state's infrastructure and the public's confidence in the department. And we're working hard to turn that around. Nearly all programs that were shuttered have been reactivated. One area that has received a great deal of attention is litter. Since January, we have picked up more than 2 million pounds of litter, and we pick up more every day. We continue to let contracts for road resurfacing and bridge work, and we're hiring in our maintenance shops again so that we can respond to maintenance issues and also be prepared should we face difficult weather this hurricane season. Last year, the department delayed more than 900 projects because of the impacts of the pandemic and because there were nearly $3 billion in project-associated cost increases. We're in the process right now of reviewing the cost estimates for nearly 500 other projects that are in the STIP, and we do expect that we're going to see costs going up on those. However, our chief engineer, Ronnie, who's going to, I think, follow me, and his team are working with our highway divisions and our private sector industry partners to look at how we can value engineer those projects to deliver the benefits communities want, but at a cost that doesn't affect other projects in the STIP. The department can't do any of our work effectively without your leadership and partnership. Secretary Boyette is committed, and he requires the commitment of everyone on his team to work in partnership with local communities, and I hope that is what you hear from us today. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
I was glad you mentioned, Bo, the litter campaign. I think everybody, I get Representative Bell probably led the charge, but everybody's complaining about the litter on the highways because, as you say, with the budget constraints, last year we didn't have the litter campaign, and it showed. And hopefully we're going to catch that up and clean them up and convince people not to do it. Don't we still have the cards that people can send in if they see people dumping trash?
We've done even better than the cards now. If you go on the internet and you Google "swat a litter bug," and it'll take you to a mobile website that gives you the opportunity to write from your phone or your mobile device or your computer to report someone who is littering, and then we'll reach out to them and let them know that someone saw them do it, and hopefully keep them from doing it in the future.
That's great, and that's called swap a litter bug.
Swat a litter bug.
Okay.
And I'll send the information after this to you with the link and everything that if you want to send that around to folks on the call.
That would be great.
Thank you. Yeah.
And the other thing, did you say there was 2 million pounds picked up in January?
Since January, we picked up 2 million pounds. In fact, we crossed the 2 million pound mark, I believe, on Tuesday. So we continue to add to that total every day.
That's a lot.
Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, it is.
Well, we welcome you to our group, and we're so glad to have you. And it's good to see DOT moving forward and things being accomplished.
Thank you so much.
Ronnie, you're up.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
We can. We don't see your pretty face, but we hear you.
Well, I hit my video. I hope you may see me, you may not. I ain't sure, but
Okay.
but I'm in a truck on the road, so I'll and what I would like to emphasize too that we are working hard on the litter, and like our COO said, we're up to 2 million pounds now, and but to put that in perspective, it's about our contracts are about a mile, so it's about they average statewide about $45 a shoulder mile to pick up that litter, and so but I've averaged it out in just some quick calculation. It's about $2 a pound. So we've spent $4 million on picking up litter, and so we're asking for any good ideas and anything anybody could do to try to help us prevent it. I don't know what the magic code is there to try to get people to not throw their trash out. But you know what kind of bothers me, working in maintenance and construction is, that's $4 million we could have paid road and built bridges with.
Ronnie and and Bo Memory, is there a Facebook page for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
Yes, ma'am. And we'll send some links to Jennifer of everywhere where we put anything up about litter.
Good.
But we appreciate you getting that information out for us too, and helping us where we can. And where Bo has already mentioned that our cash balance it continues to get better. We were at 1.27 billion this morning. So we're recovering and we're able to start things back. But you could hear in the previous presentations, we're doing everything we can to budget conservatively and to let when we're solid about the time frames we can let, and making sure we don't get ahead of ourselves as far as the letting projects when utilities aren't move like they're supposed to, so where we incur extra costs by not planning ahead and not doing things like we're supposed to. In the recent months, we have opened some bids on resurfacing, and we're getting good prices. I think the last letting was about 25% less than what the estimate was, and our Wilson Mills project, which I think Kevin will probably mention a little later on, I think it was about a 10-12% discount from what our estimate was on that project. So we're glad to see that those come in low. We're glad to see healthy competition on those projects. Some of the resurfacing is local that some of you may be interested in. There's some sections on 17 in Beaufort and Craven counties that we're working on. Some resurfacing that was open on NC11 in Lenore, and we have several projects on Wilson, Halifax, Edgecombe, in Division 4 counties. We've started back with our emergency repairs. We're starting back our pipe replacements from the heavy rains and the storms. I think Division 4 has 30 culverts that are underway that we have plans to replace in 2 to 3 months. We made those temporary repairs and got the roads open, but now we have to come back and make some permanent repairs. And likewise, I think we had some on 70 in Craven County and 43 in Craven County, where we were going to do some extra work there too. Some of the routes we have picked up on litter, we picked up sections of 70, NC 41, 17 business, NC 11, and 264, 795. You've probably seen some of our crews out when you're getting out and around. We have at least 5 crews picking up in every division in across the whole state. That's and what our goal is by Memorial Day, when everybody starts traveling, we'll have our roads in good shape and give somebody, you know, the good perspective of North Carolina like it ought to be. Our COVID numbers, you know, are continuing to get better, and we're getting more people vaccinated, and we're working on a return to work plan for to getting all our employees back to work, try to get things back to normal. I think Kevin had one of the first, Kevin Bowen, our division engineer, had one of the first clinics where he talked to some of the local folks giving the vaccination, and we held a clinic for our DOT employees, you know, on their own, and just to try to get things back to normal, and just try to get our folks back to work as quick as we could. With that, Mr. Durwood, that's all the comments I've got. Be glad to take any questions.
Any questions for Ronnie?
Ronnie, Chris Gurley.
Could I mention somebody's is not muted, so please check yourself, because there's some conversation sort of going in and out once in a while. It's easy to do that, so thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Gurd.
I was just going to tell Ronnie that Chip's sitting here with me. He said stop sticks would work on catching the people.
that would work. No, we'll take any ideas. If you can stop them and get the money out of them, we'll take it.
Madam Chairman, this is Ted Godwin. I've got a question or a comment for Ronnie Keeter.
Yes, sir.
It ties in with what Deputy Secretary said about trash by the road. Here in Johnston County, I've been meeting with a local town official, and he's come up with a great idea that I may try to expand on it, maybe even get it adopted statewide. It really involves school children. Not unlike if the older people might remember back in the early 60s, late 50s, all the school children involved in raising money for the USS North Carolina, you know, pennies, hundreds of thousands of pennies. If we could get elementary kids, some initiative going through the school system and DOT, where the schools get behind and urge their parents, hey, don't throw that out. I've got a little, you know, trash bag or something here, hang on the back of your, you know, the back of the front seat or something like that. There'll be more coming, but I just wanted to chime that in because it is a topic we're discussing a lot in Johnston County. Thank you.
You know, there was a campaign like that years ago when they gave out the little plastic trash bags that you can put in your car. We've got something going on in our county. Some folks have gotten so, which it really gives me a good feeling to knowing that they're not only talking about it, but they're doing something about it. Trash bashers. And they're taking Saturday mornings and they're going around and they report back how many on Facebook, how many bags they've collected and some of the unusual things they collect. But folks really are disturbed about it. And luckily, like you said, we've got some folks who are working on it. So that's a good thing. I happened to see a DOT truck this morning with a great big trailer behind it and the guys on there with the bags of trash.
Yes, ma'am. And those are great ideas, Commissioner Godwin, and I'll pass that along to our communication folks. And and they're reaching out to school children, because you're right. You know, kind of like the seatbelt campaign, when they got the children where they would make sure they do it, they would end up reminding their parents, look, you're supposed to be wearing your seatbelt too. So we'll take note of that, and we'll pass it along, and we appreciate all the comments.
Thank you so much for being with us, Ronnie.
Yes, ma'am.
Greg?
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Stevenson. My name is Greg Burns. I'm Eastern Deputy Chief Engineer. I previously was working in Division 6 for about 31 years, and the last 11 years have been Division Engineer down there. And Roddy gave me the opportunity to come to Raleigh and assist him in the Chief's office. And I look
that blue.
I also appreciate the invitation to participate in the US 70 Corridor Commission meeting. I want to thank Preston and Kevin for updating me on the projects. They're occurring and coming up along the corridor. Very impressed with the way and plan to improve US 70 to interstate standards. Preston and Kevin and the entire commission have done a great job in developing a plan for the corridor, and I look forward to supporting the chief engineer, the divisions, and the commission on the effort going forward. So I look forward to continuing to work with you in the future.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you so much for being with us, Greg, and welcome. Okay, at this time, we'll have our report from Division 2 with Preston Hunter.
All right, thank you, Linda. We'll go through them real quick. I think everybody got the handouts from Jennifer. We'll start at the Wayne County line. Our first project is the interstate maintenance project. That's where we're going to upgrade US 70 from the Goldsboro bypass back around to NC 903. This work is scheduled. Right now, we're going to try and let it with the next project, which is the Little Baltimore interchange. It's going to it. Most of you should be familiar with it. It's the intersection right outside LaGrange, US 70 at Willie Measley Road. We're upgrading that to an interchange, and then everything from NC 903 interchange back down, upgrading it. This project is currently scheduled for right away in 2026 and construction in 2028. One update that has been added to the handout that was sent out is that it has been added to our PE Move Forward list. So we are starting work back on it now to get the design work done. The next project is the Kinston Bypass. Most of you should be familiar with it. Is going from LaGrange all the way to Dover. The project is broke up into 5 different sections. Currently we have sections B and C that are funded. Section B should go to right away in 2029, and section C will go to right away in 2026. Both right now with construction in post year. Where we are with it right now, we have completed most of our environmental studies. We're doing some archaeology studies right now in the Wise Fork Battleground. We are anticipating next year the environmental impact statement, and then late next year get a decision on that. Next project is the Northern Interstate Maintenance. That's the part of US 70 from Dover. Barn Hill about 2 years ago. They are finishing
Preston. Could everybody please check your audio? And if you're not muted, please mute yourself, because there is some interruption coming in. Okay, sorry about that, Preston. Go ahead.
That's all right, Linda. Talking about the interstate maintenance to resurfacing between Dover and Newbern. And like I said, Barn Hill should finish that up this spring. Once that's completed, it's got that entire stretch, the pavement widths and shoulder widths up to interstate standards. The next project we have is down at the interchange of Glenbury US 70. That's to upgrade that existing interchange to interstate standards and improve the congestion at it now. That is in the back half of the step, so it will have to be rescored. It is not a committed project, so it'll go through spot again this year. The next project is the James City project. That's running from the base of the bridge all the way down to Thurman Road, upgrading the entire section of Interstate standards. It was awarded to Balfour Beatty. Currently, we are still working with right-of-way acquisitions. They do have some utilities that are under construction out being relocated. The contractor is still hoping that he can get started with actual road construction late this spring, early this summer. One thing to note on that project, if you're interested in it, we do have a very updated website. Because we were not able to go out and meet with the public as much as we wanted to during the last year, our team that we have got on has put some great videos on there that really go through and explain the different phases of the project, the work zones, roundabouts, the reduced conflict intersections that'll be put in. So it's really worth looking at if you get an opportunity. The next project is the section of US 70 that starts at the end of James City and then runs all the way down to the Havelock bypass. We're working on it now with the PE stage. We're hoping to get our environmental studies complete and hopefully get our environmental document next month or maybe in May at the latest. This is going to be a design build project, just like the first section of James City was. We'll start that process next winter with hopefully awarded to a design build team in August of next year. Do have in the handouts are just some visuals of the different interchanges. We're sticking pretty much with the same design we did through James City with US 70 going up and over all the Y lines with the exception of stately pine roads. In that case, stately pines will go up and over US 70. The next project's Havelock bypass is currently under construction. Looking at sometime probably in 2023, late 2023 for completion. Right now it's about 22.5% complete. If you remember also on the website, about a couple of months back, 6 months back, we put up a drone footage of it. We have updated it now, so if somebody wants to go look at it, you can really see the progress of work that's been made in the last few months on it. And then the last project is the Newport River Bridge. That's a high-rise bridge at the port. We're looking at going to right-of-way with it in 2025 and construction in 2027. We have recently just started back the PE on it also. So that'll be one we'll be working on in the next few months. And that's all I got, Linda, if there's any questions.
Are there any questions of Preston? I would really recommend that if you haven't been to those websites, go because they're real informative. And I really love when the drones do the overhead trips where they'll take you right down, and that's really neat.
Yeah, that is accessible, and that Preston sends those to me, and it's interesting to just sit down and watch it. I mean, it's amazing. Preston, I congratulate all the folks down there. I'm amazed at how much that I see from the drone activity that they've accomplished as wet as it's been, but they've done a great job. They
have really gone a long way, made a lot of work with them, Mr. Gerwin. They really have.
We're really excited down this way too. Okay, if there's no more questions for Preston, this time we'll have Kevin Bowen from the Division 4. Kevin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate that. Jennifer has our handout on the screen, and I think you all have copies of that as well. I'll go through a couple of our projects. We don't have nearly the number that Preston's got, but I'll start off with project W5600 in Johnston County, and Ronnie made mention of this project in his talking points, but that project picks up on the east end of the US 70 bypass around Clayton and extends through the Wilson's Mills area and ends around the Neuse River to the northwest of Smithfield and Selma. There'll be 2 interchanges on that project. And the good news we have to share, as Ronnie mentioned, was that project let for construction this week. The apparent low bidder is Flatiron Constructors Incorporated. Their bid amount was $58.8 million. That was about 12.3% below the engineer's estimate of $67 million. So we've gotten a really good price there. As Ronnie has mentioned, we've had some success with low pricing as of late. The date of availability on that project is April 26th. So we'll begin to see contractor mobilizing at the end of the month of April. Completion date for the project is September of 2024. So again, we'll see increase in activities this summer and into the fall. Looking forward to getting started on that. The next project is R5829A and B. Those projects are around the Princeton area. The A project extends from Johnston County into Wayne County. Starts there at Princeton, ends there around the Goldsboro bypass, where we're already up to interstate standards. There will be 3 interchanges on these 2 sections of work on US 70. One at US 70 alternate, one at Pearl Street, Edward Street, one at Capps Bridge and Ebenezer Church Road. The current schedule for those is the right-of-way date is in 2025 for both. Construction let date is 2027 and 2029. The good thing is we've been approved to restart design work on these projects, which is good, and we've re-engaged with our design firm on getting that work started. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity down the road to get these accelerated a bit if we're fortunate enough. One mention I don't have in the handout is we have a safety project within the A and the B section there of R5829. This has been put in the works in recent months. It has been funded. It's about $300,000 worth of intersection improvements to address a couple of fatalities and 2 serious injuries that occurred at these intersections. And the project will be to convert existing full movement median intersections to median crossovers or reduced conflict intersections. They'll be directional crossovers. So it will allow for left turns off of US 70 onto these side streets, but won't allow for left turns off the side streets onto 70. And will eliminate some of these extensive conflict points, hopefully address the safety concerns that we've got there until the project comes through. So we hope to get started on those fairly soon as we get the opportunity to move forward with that. And the last slide is the mention of the feasibility study in Johnston County, and that's the section between the W5600 project and the R5829B project. And that feasibility study has been completed. There's a reference in the handout that you can access that if you want to take a closer look. And we have recently completed some work on that section though. The W5107 project, which Flatiron actually worked on. So Flatiron has got some experience on this corridor. There were some improvements there near Pine Level under that project where we added 2 interchanges, and we've also completed some resurfacing on this entire section. So that's all I've got. If there are any questions I can answer, happy to do that.
Anybody have any questions? Matthew?
Yeah, Kevin, Don Raines, Mayor, Town of Princeton, and on the 70 corridor. If you could give me a call, and Sam Lawhorn had brought us some sketches a few months ago of what that might look like, and if you could just give me a call later on today or tomorrow to go over that again with you.
Happy to do that. Yes, sir. Sam's on the call too. So.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Madam Chairman, this is Ted
Kevin.
Goff. I've got a couple of comments, if you don't mind. You know, I've been involved in the Corridor Commission for several years now, having served as chairman a couple of years. And, you know, when you talk about projects several years out in the front, you wonder if we're ever going to make any progress. But in looking at both of these guys, Division 2 and Division 4, what's been happening, and you see the little pieces come together and it's all plugged in. When we get these projects, just during my time here on this commission, we're seeing a tremendous amount of progress. And I just want to commend everybody involved. I know Durwood has a vision to get rid of stoplights that impede traffic and impede commerce. And it looks like we're doing a bang up job of getting that done. I congratulate all of you.
I could not agree more, Ted. When you look back, I look back when I first got on the commission and the things that we were thinking about doing. And now you look back and see how many of them have been accomplished, and how we're, like you say, pulling it all together gives you a lot of pride to know that this commission has done as well as it has under the leadership of Durwood.
Madam Chairman, I have a question. Chris Gurley from Wayne County. It's actually for Jennifer. Jennifer, have you got the plans for the section from Princeton to Rosewood?
I do not have the plans, but we can get them from Division 4. I don't know who the project manager is. Kevin, if you can answer that, that will be great, but I can make sure that we can get those plans to Commissioner Gurley.
Yes, we'll be happy to provide what we have. Absolutely.
That'll help us with the commissioners. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Durwell.
Anybody else?
Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Jesse Denson here. I'd like to echo something that Ted said a minute ago. In my length of time on the commission, when I first came on, I looked at those maps and I said, my God, how is this going to come together? And it's been absolutely amazing to me to see what's happened. And in that same thought, if we were in person, I think at this meeting that it would be appropriate for us to recognize everybody with DOT, because I'm going to tell you what, Preston and all of the crew, you have all just done a tremendous job.
Absolutely.
DOT has weathered a hell of a storm. And, being an ex-DOT employee, I tend to kind of get a burr under my saddle when I hear somebody criticizing DOT. And I just wanted to say that I think you guys have just done a tremendous job. Congratulations to you. And thank you so much for all of DOT's support to help us get this project, this Highway 70 turned into an interstate and help it become a reality. We could not do it without your undivided support. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
I would just like to add to that, Jesse and Ted, thank you both for those comments. But we have been extremely fortunate in Divisions 2 and 4 with the leadership we've had locally right on up in Raleigh, and Bo and Ronnie and Greg and Tim and Bobby before them have all been very much in tune with our agenda, and we certainly appreciate it. While I mentioned that, I think you said, Ronnie, you saved about $12.3 million on the Wilson Mills project, and my calculations said 14 million. So we'd like to be sure we keep that 14 million on Highway 70.
Any other questions or comments? If not, at this time, we'll have Matthew Lawfer from the State Hydraulics Design Engineer.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. Everybody, hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. And I also have joining me today, Colin Meller from our Environmental Policy Unit and Nastasha Earl Young from our Transportation Planning Division. So we're on the basically the Resilience Strategy team. I'll let each of us introduce ourselves. So my name's Matt Lawfer with the North Carolina Department of Transportation Hydraulics Unit. So I'm an assistant state hydraulics engineer overseeing design, floodplain management, and resilience strategy. Colin, you want to go next?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Colin Mellor. I'm with NCDOT's Environmental Policy Unit. As Matt said, I'm sort of part of the resilience team that we've put together at NCDOT. I've also been one of the technical leads on Governor Cooper's Executive Order 80.
And Nastasha, if you're with us, if you could introduce yourself as well, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Nastasha Earl Young, and I'm with NCDOT Transportation Planning Division. I'm helping out with the resiliency work that we're doing. I'm also the project manager for NCDOT's Long Range Multimodal Transportation Plan, which we just got adopted by the Board of Transportation on February 4th. I also am the project manager for the Strategic Transportation Corridors as well. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you, Nastasha.
Welcome home.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would also just like to thank Mr. Stevenson. He's been a great proponent of just thinking about Eastern North Carolina, and especially the flooding. I've been involved with him several years now, just discussing the impact to the Eastern North Carolina and the challenges we face here. So hopefully this presentation today will really help out with that and just give you guys some understanding of what the department's currently doing. Colin's going to lead off the presentation day and give you some just some oversight of our resilience program. And I'm going to follow up with what we're doing for risk management and flood risk management along this, along in North Carolina and along the corridor. So let me get the presentation started here. Share my screen. Okay.
Am I going to need to stop sharing mine, maybe?
Yes, possibly. Yeah, that would be, there we go. Very good. Right. And I think it's this one. All right. Everybody see that okay?
No.
All right, let me see. Oh, hold on. Here we go. Thanks, everyone. All right. Now we should be operational. Colin, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. We can go ahead and jump to the next slide because I've already introduced myself. But I'd like to say thanks for the opportunity of presenting today. Comments earlier from Paxton. I'm afraid I don't know Paxton, but I'm going to need to find out who he is and give him a call, because opportunities like today are what we want to pursue. We want to look into partnerships. Matt will give you a little bit of detail later. We've already received at NCDOT one of the NIFWIF grants in cooperation with the North Carolina Coastal Federation for some work that we're doing down on NC 24 to protect the causeway there just outside of Swansboro. So we might be able to get in touch with Paxton. Maybe there's some partnership possibilities there. Yeah, back to resilience. As I said, I've been one of NCDOT's technical leads on Governor Cooper's Executive Order 80, which was North Carolina's commitment to addressing climate change and transitioning to a clean energy economy. And one of the directives in the executive order, section 9 of the executive order, was a task of all the cabinet agencies to address resilience in their day-to-day business, and then a specific deliverable, the North Carolina Climate Risk and Resilience Plan. You can Google North Carolina Risk and Resilience Plan and you'll find it pretty quickly online, but I can provide a link to the committee later on that can be shared. But we submitted that to the governor last June in 2020. It's a pretty voluminous document, so I'll hit the highlights for you so you know which chapters to take a look at if you take a look at it. Particularly chapter 3, which was a specific North Carolina climate science report. And so that took a lot of the global and national climate change trends and projections and really focused them down to observed data and projected data for North Carolina specifically. So that's a really important chapter. In North Carolina, we've got a lot of really smart academic folks, and so we drew on those and we continue to partner with them so that we keep up with the latest science. Chapter 5 of that report was broken up into a bunch of sub-chapters. Each one of the cabinet agencies reported on specifically what climate risks they face at the moment and what climate related risks they might face in the future. There's a transportation chapter there, which you would be welcome to take a look at. I don't want to spoil the surprise for anybody, but as you know, North Carolina's got a hydraulic problem. There are a lot of other climate risks that people around the nation look at, forest fires and drought, and I don't want to diminish any of those, but most of what we're looking at in North Carolina is hydraulically related. That's why Matt, the hydraulic engineer, will be presenting later. Even the rock slides that we experience out west are normally associated with large rain events. So that's a lot of what's detailed there. Chapter 7 of the report was the path forward, and that detailed specifically what each cabinet agency is going to do. And there was a deliverable there. Each cabinet agency annually is going to update the governor on what its resiliency activities were for the last 12 months and what they plan to be. We've just submitted that report to the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency, who's kind of collating all those things. It hasn't been published yet, but I think that it will be soon. So what we used that annual report for, the first annual report internally, Matt, Nastasha, and I, and a few others, we use that as our catalyst to really start looking within the department where we want to go, how we want to address resilience. And we had some workshops starting all the way up with executive management, and then we moved down to make sure that we included all the transportation modes, as many of the internal business units as we could, external stakeholders, MPOs and RPOs, federal partners, FHWA, everybody. I'm glad that we've got you guys on today. Consider this us including you, and I hope we set up an information exchange here. But we've started pushing forward the idea of resilience, and we're starting to formulate how we want the department to look at resilience and treat resilience, and hopefully formulate a policy for the department moving forward. We can go to the next slide, Matt. So one of the things that's problematic, the word resilience has kind of taken on a life of its own. If you look at the history of the word, it's been associated with being strong or the ability to change or adapt to problems, and that's usually in a psychological or medical circumstance. But if you look through history a little bit more, you come up into the 90s, and the word starts to get a new definition, and it starts to look at community resilience. And then certainly by the time we get to 9/11 at the beginning of 2000s and on through Katrina 2005, community resilience starts to morph into weather-related resilience and climate change resilience, until now, where we've bumped all the other buzzwords like sustainability out of the way, and resilience is almost always associated with climate change now. And so that's one of the things we want to be careful of in the department. You'll see the definitions that we've got up here. The first one was the definition that was used in the statewide report, and that's a pretty broad and all-inclusive definition, and I don't want to belittle that. But I do want to say that the Department of Transportation has to have a more focused definition of what resilience is. While most of the time we're going to be thinking about weather-related events and those problems, we want to be resilient to all problems and have a resilient transportation infrastructure. Those could be cyber threats. Those could be other man-made threats. That could be the ability to be resilient to an accident during rush hour on the interstate. And so when we look at resilience, we're looking more towards the FHWA definition that you can see down here, which is the ability to anticipate, prepare for, and adapt to changing conditions and withstand, respond to, and recover rapidly from disruptions. Next slide, Matt. So what are we doing? We'd like to move forward with a broad, overarching department-wide policy. And the reason for that is that, as I said a minute ago, we want to stay focused. We want to make sure that we base whatever decisions we're going to make on the latest verified scientific data, and we want to be fiscally responsible. Resilience isn't always building bigger, higher, and better. We want to make sure that we look at some other adaptive strategies. Matt's going to show you some of the things, some of the great technological solutions that we're looking at. It might be putting wing walls on pipes. It might be armoring with riprap. It might be building a bridge or replacing a culvert with a bridge. We want to make sure that we do what's right. And so as we write the policy, we want to be careful. We also want that policy to show that we want this to start in long-range planning. We want the communities to tell us what's going to make them more resilient. We'll then design and build the projects that help that. And hopefully we build them or design them and build them in such a way that they can be easily maintained and operated. So why are we doing this? Well, we're reaching the time now where the cost of doing nothing ends up being far more expensive than the cost of implementing the solutions that we need to. We've already started within the department to directly or indirectly benefit from federal funding that's specifically ready for resilience projects. And so we think everybody's pretty sure that there's going to be a federal infrastructure bill, some sort of infrastructure stimulus bill, hopefully in the works. There'll most likely be dollars earmarked for resilience projects within that, and we'd like to compete for those projects. One of the words that's being thrown around now, not so much shovel-ready projects, but shovel-worthy projects, and we want to have those projects ready. And then finally, it's the department's mission to ensure that the transportation system is safe and resilient. Next slide, Matt. So what are our next steps? Well, we're certainly going to be continuing the work that's already being done. There's a lot of great work being done within the department. And again, Matt's going to be highlighting some of the specifics there for you in just a minute. That work is being built on some monies and some efforts that we've already spent. One of the big things is that North Carolina is data rich. We have a lot, specifically our high resolution LiDAR elevation data. We're talking about elevations, correlating those to flood elevations. We're in a great place, and we're the envy of a lot of other states and other DOTs with the data that we've spent money on, but that money is already returning investments. We're going to draft a policy framework. We want to make sure that we draw from best practices nationally and even internationally, but we also want to make sure that we integrate those North Carolina specifically. We need to identify what's vulnerable, and we've started to do that along our strategic transportation corridors. Again, Matt's going to detail a little bit of that in just a second. A big thing, we need to start looking at benefit cost analysis of these types of projects. Not always, but a lot of the time, these projects have upfront costs that may be unpalatable to some people. We really have to show that those costs are worthwhile and pay back big time on the back end when we experience these storms, and North Carolina will experience these storms. And then, of course, we want to continue internal and external collaboration. I feel like we're doing that today, reaching out to you all. We know the work that you do along US 70 that the Commission does. And so we'd like to be a part of that. We'd like to help you with that. Hopefully you can help us with the work that we're doing. And as I said, we can start right now. I'm going to try and get in touch with Paxton over the next couple of days to see if we can start the partnerships there. With that, I'll pass it along to Matt, and he'll show you some of the technological bells and whistles of what we're doing at the moment.
Very good, Colin. Thank you very much. All right, let's get this. Okay, so yeah, thank you, Colin, and good afternoon, everyone. And thanks again for this opportunity. I'm honored to have an opportunity to just discuss some of the flood preparedness tools and resilience activities that we've been working on strongly. And really also just want to thank, the executive leadership at DOT, Bo Memory and Greg and Kevin and Preston and everybody that's on the call here today, Mr. Mitchell. It's just really appreciate the support of the department, and really again just emphasize the support of Mr. Stevenson and the work he's been doing in this area. So let's jump into this here a little bit. So really during our time this afternoon, I'd like to just review a significant amount of material that we're working on. Give a broad survey of the activities that we are developing and piloting as part of the development of the resilience program at DOT that Colin mentioned. And then after reinforcing some of the terms associated with resilience, we'll review examples of how DOT is integrating resilience into the department. So just a little bit about, as we talk about flood risk management and resilience, the department's Transportation Asset Management Plan, also known as TAMP, defines risk as an event that is a deviation from an expected outcome and is measured by the likelihood and consequence if that event did occur. So I think that's an important way for the department to think risk. And then another important term is vulnerability, and it's a function of exposure, sensitivity, and adapt capacity. And as Colin mentioned, we're going to try to define these and what they mean to DOT as we go along. And assessing vulnerability is important, defining the correct resilience strategy for an asset, like a bridge, a pipe, a roadway, that type of thing. And there's not one strategy that works for every asset. So I-42 is a different, asset and a different, has a resilient strategy than a secondary road. So we need to be thinking about that as we balance resilience in the department. And the resilience is the ability, as Colin mentioned, to anticipate, plan for, and adapt to changing conditions and withstand, respond to, and recover rapidly from disruptions. And I think the focus there, changing conditions, we are observing those changing conditions and, the number of storms and the frequencies, and then those cause more disruptions. So how do we respond to and recover more rapidly from those? And it's a balance. Flood risk management and developing a resilient strategy require a balanced approach that considers how the transportation network is able to absorb, restore, and adapt to the disruptions while providing equitable access. We cannot raise every road out of the floodplain, bridge every stream system, but we can, however, improve how these systems are impacted and then implement the appropriate level of protection. Let's see here. And just wanted to emphasize some of the things here. To build a fiscally responsible resilient strategy, the department needs to look at a future indicator. So Colin mentioned the climate risk and resilience plan, and that was, as he mentioned, is published last June, identified 6 metrics that were likely, very likely, or virtually certain to occur through the end of the century. And these included the hurricane intensity, flooding, drought, annual precipitation, summer heat indexes, and sea level rise, all which contribute to these events that we're experiencing. According to the 2020 Maintenance Operations Performance Analysis report, while it can be expected that North Carolina will experience some degree of emergency impacts each year, the severity and scope is unpredictable. For example, as seen in Figure 1 here, the department incurred an average of $181 million per annum in emergency expenses over the past 5 fiscal years from 2016 to 2020. In that same time, expenses range from as low as $86 million to as high as $297 million. And in general, only half of the total amount of emergency expenditures are eligible for federal reimbursement. And then while the 2020 hurricane season was highest on record for named storms, we had about 29. North Carolina was spared major impact. Even without a major hurricane, however, there were significant damages due to storm events. And the department saw damages on 90 bridges and 424 pipes and culverts. So pretty significant there, even without having a major event. So we're going to kind of go into the investment and the importance of investment. Improving risk management and resilience requires investment in data and tools. During Florence, we used the best data to deliver products available to inform the Secretary of the potential road closures due to flooding. And this was a paper map highlighted with areas of open roads in purple, red with potential flooding, and black with no travel. And so, during that event, this map was created. We were looking at our models and flood studies and overlaying those with the road network and then highlighting those. And so, basically what you see there is all of southeastern North Carolina was closed for Florence. But, we didn't let this opportunity go to waste. During Florence, emergency management and North Carolina DOT partnered to develop a 3D roadway elevation model that has been instrumental in developing some of the tools I'll be showing you today. The picture here is a representation of the 3D road elevation model that has been color coded with light colors representing low elevations in the coast to the dark reds representing the higher elevations in the mountains. And the vision of investment of leaders at emergency management and North Carolina Department of Transportation working together to fund LIDAR mapping of the state has been the foundation of flood resilience planning, design, and storm event response. The DOT, in partnership with the Department of Public Safety, Emergency Management, and contractors are working to develop flood assessment tools for planning, design, and storm operations. I'd like to spend some time showing some of the products that we've been developing. Many are a result of the funding appropriated from the Session Law 251 in 2019. So Session Law 251 required a flood risk and vulnerability assessment of the strategic transportation corridors. And using riverine flood studies from emergency management and the 3D road elevation model that I was showing there, flooding locations and depths have been identified on the primary routes in all 100 counties. 38 of the eastern counties are shown here. And here's a closer look at US 70 near Kinston. And for the 500-year event, the yellow areas represent water depths from 0 to 1/2 foot, orange from 1/2 foot to 2 feet, red from 2 to 5 feet, and purple is greater than 5 feet. And these are trafficability depths that we got from the Army Corps of Engineers during Florence when we were looking at some of this information and data. This mapping will assist coordination with the MPOs and RPOs on identifying areas that are vulnerable to flooding and planning appropriately. And then this slide is an example of a product that shows the area around Morehead City in Atlantic Beach with water surface over the land at 5 feet above sea level. The blue areas are where the water is over the land, and the color-coded segments depict the depth of water over the road. This tool will be helpful for managing and assessing the flood vulnerability in the coast. And then we'll now transition over to some design examples and think about resilience from a design perspective. The two examples that I'm going to share are context-sensitive design and emphasize that resilience criteria needs to be adjusted for different types of projects. The first project pictured here is I-95 improvements in Lumberton, where I-95 was flooded for 4 days during Matthew and over a week during Florence. This project used complex watershed modeling and federal highway design guidance to produce a roadway design that will help protect surrounding communities from flooding and provide mobility and connectivity during extreme events. So this is the area down there in Lumberton. Top picture is the flooded highway of I-95. The next picture there is the mesh, the model mesh that we use for complex modeling to basically model the water surface elevations throughout that corridor. And the bottom picture there is just a picture of the inundation area as well as the velocity vectors for the flow. And while the I-95 project is raising the elevation of the roadway, this may not be an option for other locations like this project in Sampson County on NC 24, which is part of the Strategic Transportation Corridor, the National Highway System, and the Strategic Highway Network for military purposes. This section of North Carolina, this section of NC 24 between I-40 and Clinton has overtopped and washed out twice in the last 4 years. And so during the design of the bridge, the overtopping area of the road was identified and is being investigated for flood overtopping protection. Assuming overtopping events will occur 2 more times in the life cycle of the roadway, the benefit cost of this measure is estimated at a favorable 4. So this is just an example of some of the things we're looking at and trying to plan for to make this system more resilient. We'll now look at storm event tools that are being developed to facilitate storm preparedness, response, and recovery, and potentially provide important information on the transportation assets. So some of the tools we've been working on, this one's BridgeWatch, and it's a web-based monitoring software solution that was introduced to the DOT last March. This software allows DOTs to predict, identify, prepare for, and manage and record potentially destructive environmental events that affect structures. The software will allow DOT to proactively monitor in real-time bridge and roadway infrastructure to better protect against hazardous, costly, and potentially catastrophic. Currently, the department is monitoring 1,600 structures on a 3-year pilot. And this slide just shows the distribution of those bridges across the state. And then it works on these different thresholds, which I'll talk about a little bit here. BridgeWatch monitors data sources from the National Weather Service, NOAA, and USGS and emergency management to identify threats to bridges and roadway segments. The software monitors the predicted rainfall and actual rainfall over the watershed tributary to that structure and identifies when rainfall has exceeded thresholds of design or other metrics to identify vulnerability. The system can also monitor gauges and send out an alert when water surface elevations are too high. The system also monitors surge data from NOAA and reports on dangerous conditions in the coast. So this is another tool that we've developed since Florence that's really hoping to help us with our awareness. Then on our bridges with gauges, the software takes the water surface measurements from the link gauge and records and compares that to preset action levels or thresholds associated with freeboard. That's freeboard is a certain distance below the bridge, the lower part of the bridge, the bottom of the bridge, and then the overtopping of the bridge. And so when the thresholds are exceeded, the alerts are emailed or texted to staff and appropriate action is taken. And we're piloting these products. So this is like the first year that we'll be actually piloting with these tools. And we're going to do a lot of training this spring and look forward to using this system. Rainfall thresholds work in similar fashion. While BridgeWatch alerts were not in operation during the November event, it washed out 2 bridges in Alexander County and 1 in Iredell County out in the west. The system was collecting data. And the BridgeWatch user interface is depicted here with Iredell County Bridge 141. So event data was collected by Bridgewatch at Cattleman's Road Bridge. Shows that the rainfall amounts were between 5 and 8 inches. So I'm just showing some of the tools that are available. Here you're seeing the watershed and the rainfall amounts. And then there's the drainage basin there, the white polygon there that you see, that structure there. And then the storm rainfall. So you can see here, it's hard to read, you guys probably can't see this, but we're seeing anywhere from like the 5 to 8 inches based on that color coding that's there in the NextRad radar depiction. And so this example shows how Bridgewatch can be used as a tool to retrieve data on historical events. And we have the same kind of data for Galilee Road too, that would have been, if the software would have been implemented, we would have seen alerts for that area as well. So looking forward to getting this tool operational. And then finally, another example less than 2 weeks ago, and Greg Burns is interacting with us on this one. Bridgewatch was being tested and verified on I-95 over the Lumber River. The rainfall events of the previous week had caused the Lumber River to rise within 5 inches of the bottom of the bridge. And if water reaches the bottom of the bridge, the road is typically closed. So we were watching that pretty carefully. And Bridgewatch provided additional flood awareness that helped manage the bridge during a storm event. And then the final data set that Bridgewatch is monitoring is the surge height from NOAA. So DOT has identified 193 bridges in the coastal area that are susceptible to surge vulnerability and will be monitored during hurricane events. So hours before the storm, as these tracks come out from NOAA, we'll know what bridges are vulnerable to storm surge and wave height. And then a final product the department's piloting and developing for storm operations is Feynman T, which stands for Flood Inundation Mapping and Alert Network for Transportation. And Feynman T is a partnership product with emergency management that monitors both coastal and riverine roadway environments for flood vulnerability. Even with COVID and financial delays, there has been significant progress. Some of the highlights include validation, addition of the coastal surge inundation mapping, evaluation of past events, and new export capabilities. And then on the slide is showing some of the other advancements that we've made as well. So last year when Feynman T was presented to the Board of Transportation, we had only 6 sites in the Neuse River Basin along 70 there. Now there are over 28 sites in the system. And so we've significantly expanded the base of Feynman T and its use. The surge model, this is in the coastal areas along the coast. It's called Feynman T, the new product's called Surge. This product takes predicted surge and wave heights and maps to the 3D road elevation model in the coastal areas. If Feynman T Surge would have been operational during Florence, this figure shows what type of forecasted flood information data would have been available days before the event. So Surge would report and summarize what roads are forecasted to be flooded and to what depth. Based on the shown forecasted advisory, 309 miles of roads are flooded. That includes 20 U.S. highways, 29 state highways, and over 1,900 miles of local road. So we'll be really testing this product and trying to give our division staff early warning about where to stage resources, and also give the folks at emergency management and the EOC and Raleigh better awareness of what potential impacts could be happening. And Surge will also allow the department to evaluate the final track of the hurricane and summarize flooded road information. This tool should greatly enhance storm preparedness, planning, and response. So we'll be able to hindcast or look at past events and see what kind of road inundation has occurred. So this is an example of a hindcast. I believe this is Florence. While significant advancements have been made in the coast, additional improvements have been made to the Feynman T in the riverine environment, areas along the Neuse, for example. And 3 items note are the addition of bridges, checking the accuracy, and more advanced seamless reporting. This figure is depicting the flooded roads and depths of water over the roads based on the forecasted peak in Goldsboro for Florence. And then checking the accuracy of the data that is being generated from Feynman T is also being performed. This figure shows that Feynman T was predicting within 5 inches of a site visit measurement. The gauge height that made the prediction was 4 miles downstream, and this is a really good correlation based on the distance that gauge is away from this bridge. So really giving us some good ground truth, on how well the system's working. And I'm going to play this video here. There have been enhancements made to the data retrieval and visualization within FIMENT. Flooded areas of roads can now be output to Google Earth for large-scale viewing. This short video shows the maximum predicted flood extents along the Neuse River for Hurricane Matthew from Fort Barnwell to Clayton. This tool allows the user to evaluate flood extents and retrieve specific information about the roadway segments. So this is significant. This is really an amazing advancement that we've made with the ability to map the flood inundation of our roadway network. So really excited to see this product used in the upcoming events this year and help give the people in the field the information they need to make vital decisions. And then as we look to making more resilient North Carolina, research and studies are needed to gain understanding of unanswered questions of how to address the most efficient ways to prepare for the future. DOT is involved in both state and national research. A sampling of those research projects are listed here and include research on future precipitation trends and how to design to changing hydrologic conditions. North Carolina Future Precipitation for Resilient Design is also listed here, and that research objective is to look at future research trend, precipitation trends and then try to model those more efficiently. Partnerships are the foundation. Colin talked about this for a successful resilience program, and DOT is working hard to improve communications and collaborations, operation response and recovery of major events within the department. It is truly a department-wide effort. And DOT is thankful for the support of folks like you on the commission, the board, the General Assembly, and other cabinet agencies, the UNC system, our consultant base, our research institutions, a host of others in the pursuit of a more resilient North Carolina. And these partnerships provide the resources and synergy to make concepts come to reality. So we really appreciate the support and continued support of folks like you. And just as Colin and I have covered a lot of material on how the department is improving risk management and resilience, I'd like to leave you with some closing thoughts. As the department builds a comprehensive transportation resilience program, additional tools and analysis will be needed to integrate concepts and awareness into our daily practices. We're still early in this pursuit, but have made significant progress in the last 2 years. The establishment of resilience strategy and policy accompanied with a defined investment strategy will be needed. Whoops, I jumped out there, folks, but so let me get back there real quick. So I think with that, I'm going to see if I just had any final thoughts here to share with you before I close out here. Yeah, just before this is accomplished, further vulnerability assessment and prioritization of the resilient activities will be needed. And the beginning of this work has been identified in the Resilient Strategy Report to be submitted as part of Executive Order 80 that has already been completed, like Colin mentioned. And that report outlines a framework for resilience policy programs and practice and outcomes. And the partnerships and relationships that are foundation for this success in any endeavor, the partnerships and relationships are the foundation for any success in any endeavor. So therefore, we need to look to build a more resilient North Carolina. As we look to build a more resilient North Carolina, partnerships will help us to solve the complicated challenges that we face. So sorry for stumbling there at the last, everyone, but really appreciate the time and opportunity to come and just report on what we're doing.
Okay, thank you so much, Matthew. It's astounding to see how much information that we have gathered regarding the hurricanes and how much we continue to gather, and with everybody networking, hopefully we can get a handle on this, all this flooding and stuff that we're having. Does anybody have any questions?
I just make a comment. That was a lot of great information, and you're right. Board member Mitchell mentioned about the bridge on Galilee Road. It's also worth noting that that road flooded in Matthew, put in a bigger culvert, came back a few months later with just a rain event. It wasn't a hurricane. And that's when we lost the 2 children. And the brighter minds at DOT decided we didn't need another culvert, we needed a bridge. And thanks to the board and the thinkers at the DOT, we got a new bridge at Galilee, and we don't anticipate that one flooding again. But that's just a perfect example. I know he had several slides that showed the Galilee Road and what happened to it. So anyway, that's a good example on a small scale of one bridge on one county road and what the havoc that it wreaked with just a rain event, not a hurricane.
Anybody else have any questions? Great presentation. Okay, would you like to give us a finance report, Mr. Darwood?
I will. Our last report that we gave was September 30th of 2020. We had a balance then of $259,466.34. Over the last 5 months, we've spent $41,335.60. It's left us with a total of $218,130.74. We earned $29.26 of interest. So our balance as of the last day of February of this year was $218,160.40. I know I've had some calls from some people, member counties, that said, you didn't bill us last year and you hadn't billed us this year. Well, I am certainly aware that all of our counties have struggled with the pandemic financially and a lot of other ways too. So since we didn't have any special projects going and we thought we had enough to see us through for a while, I did not bill last year and have not billed this year. Later this year, we'll probably get back to regular billing, but those that have inquired about your invoices, you hadn't paid them because I hadn't sent them. And I felt like we had enough funds to keep us going for a little while until we get some special projects we probably won't need. But we'll bill sometime later this year, probably. Any questions on the financial report?
That's probably a good idea, Darwood, and we appreciate, the counties and municipalities sticking with us, and so hopefully this will help them also. And you got some remarks?
Well, I hadn't heard anybody mention it, but I read somewhere, and maybe some of the bright people, Bo, or some of you folks can tell us. I am told that this month, March of 2021, marks the 100-year anniversary of the Highway Commission. Is that true? Bo, any of you guys know that? Maybe he left. Is anybody aware that is? I haven't seen any notes or any celebrations or anything, but that's a decidedly marketable birthday. So I thought that was worth mentioning.
This is Ronnie, Mr. Durwood. I hadn't heard that. I'll have to do some research myself.
Well, do that, and let's plan some kind of event to note that, because that's a pretty good history, and I think we all know what the reputation of North Carolina's Department of Transportation is, not just here but nationwide. So, but that's worth noting.
Durwood, you and Jack are the only ones that remember that.
Ted, you and I are probably the only ones still living then, right?
That's right.
A couple of other things. I know last week, I believe it was, the Vice Chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Eleanor Holmes North, I think she represents Washington, D.C., but she put out a note to the congressional, all the congressmen in the House, that they were going to open up for funding. And what she's talking, well, I didn't know what, the notice was not clear. So I had a conversation with Secretary Boyette Friday night, and we discussed what did it mean. So I think he's had some conversation with Representative Price, and I've had some conversation with Rouser this week. And basically what she's talking about is earmarking all the projects. And what she said was every congressman could earmark up to 10 projects. Well, if our congressional delegation each did half of our earmark project, we would get no money in the regular funds. And as Ronnie and in some conversations yesterday, I believe noted, a lot of times they're earmarked projects that there's been no public hearings, there's been no design, so the money sits on the shelf and don't get spent. So if you hear about encouraging your congressman to earmark a project, it really don't work well locally. I mean, I know they all want to bring home the bacon, so to speak, but anyway, it's not a good way for our DOT to spend our money wisely. So I hope y'all be aware of that if you get called on that. As we've just been talking about at length, aside from the pandemic, I guess water and cash have been the biggest challenges DOT has faced in a long time. And particularly but you know, those two are kind of intertwined. For several years, for about 13 years, I'm told DOT average spending about $66 million a year on storms and ice damages. But for the past 3 years, that number has averaged over 200 million. So those unbudgeted expenditures impacts our project delivery. So the fact that all of these folks that have been talking about the presentation you just heard from Matthew, we got to address the water issue, no question about it. And I think if we address the water issue, it'll help a whole lot with the cash issue. So those are all things that are intertwined, and there's a lot of, as you heard from Matthew and from Paxton and our group that's been meeting, there's a lot of thought and study going into what we're going to do about the water issue in Eastern North Carolina. You know, we're pretty flat down here, and we got to have a place for the water to run, and that's something that needs further study. And then we're doing all these studies, and we have all this data, but then we got to follow up with some action, and I'm sure that's going to happen. Earlier, Commissioner Godwin mentioned about the trash, and Leanne Worley, member of the commission, but couldn't join us today. She joined together with 11 mayors in Johnston County to send out letters and sent to the secretary about littering trash. And I hope you'll all go on board and find out about this reporting the trash, because the road I live on, not the one I live on, but the one I have to get to from my office to get to my house, it's unbelievable trash along there. And we went a year without picking it up. But the real issue is, let's stop it from getting out. And a lot of it, quite honestly, comes from trash trucks. And I think they need to be sent, Bo, Ronnie, they need to be sent letters saying, hey, you got to quit spilling your trash. I get behind the trash truck, and it's unreal how much in a mile or two, how much trash they lose. So I hope we can get their attention on that, and they'll do a better job of securing their load, and encourage our citizens not to do it. But anyway, those are the basic points I wanted to cover. Obviously, none of us have any idea when we can meet in person again, but hopefully soon. Frankly, a lot of guys in my office like this method. They don't have to get out of their chair, and they can handle it. I'm the old generation, and I don't take well to this form of meeting. It meets a need, but I'm hoping we can meet face to face again soon, and hopefully the pandemic is subsiding. We'll be able to do that. But that's all I have. Be happy to answer any questions anybody may have, if I can. Any questions?
Anybody got any questions of Darwood?
I just see Derek Lewis just sent me, said, Derek, your note went away. I've seen 1921. Cameron Morrison started it. Is that right? Derek, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
100 years, that's right.
Bond that was put forth by Governor Cameron Morrison in the state legislature in 1921 for a state-owned and maintained highway system. The Highway Commission was established in 1915, but it won't fund it until 1921.
Okay, all right. So it's been active since 100 years. Okay, all right.
Thank you so much, Derek.
Thank you for bringing us right up to date.
That was Google.
I'm like you, Darwood. This is better than not getting together at all, but I like to see everybody in person, and I'm a hugger. I miss my hugs from everybody.
I agree.
Anybody else have any other business? Okay, if not, we'll go on to the next item, to the election of officers. And Darwood said, don't you think we need to wait till we meet in person? I said, no, I think we need to go ahead and get somebody now. And Darwood and Jennifer do such a great job. All you have to do is follow their lead, and you're in good shape. So
Linda said she'd been in the barrel long enough, so we can put somebody else in the barrel today.
No, it's been my honor and pleasure, especially to be the first female chairman. And I cannot thank Jesse Vincent enough for always being there when I needed him to pick up the slack. And for Jennifer and Durwood, as I said, you don't have to worry about a thing when you chair because they have it all covered. And I appreciate all that they have done. And I have learned so much. It's amazing to me the different things that I have learned in depth. I've always had pretty good contact with our DOT folks. Not always fussing, was I, Preston? I gave them some real good kudos too. But, you know, just to learn a lot of things that I didn't know about what they go through and how knowledgeable they are and how hard they work. I knew they worked hard, but I didn't know how hard. So I want to thank all the DOT guys, and especially Preston in our district. So if nobody has anything else, at this time we'll do our election of officers. And you want to start with the chairman, Durwood?
All right, that's what I'd suggest.
Okay, at this time I would entertain nominations for the position of chairman.
Madam Chair, this is Robin Comer, Commissioner down in Carter County. I would like to recommend Jesse Vincent as chair.
Jesse Vincent, okay, there's been a nomination for Jesse Vincent, who is now our vice chair. Any other nominations?
Madam Chairman, I move the nominations be closed and Jesse be elected by acclamation.
Been a motion made that nominations be closed and Jesse be elected as by acclamation. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed likewise. Congratulations, Jesse.
And thank you.
Thank you.
We
Thank
look
you for your
forward to your leadership. Okay, moving right along. Are there any nominations for vice chairman? Any nominations for vice chairman? You have to have a vice chairman now.
Jack, didn't you have a nomination? Have you gone to sleep on us? Jack had called me early and said he was going to nominate Don Raines, but I don't know where Jack went. Jack, did you leave us or go to sleep?
Madam Chairman, I nominate Don Raines as vice chair.
Okay, there's been a nomination that for Don Raines as vice chair. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations?
Motion to close nominations and approve by acclamation.
There's been a motion to close nominations and approve Don Raines as vice chair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed likewise. Okay, now we need a secretary treasurer.
Madam Chair, this is Ted Godwin, Johnston County. I'd like to nominate Frank Price. He's done an excellent job in the past. He has close proximity to our director, and he said he would serve again with the same pay.
That sounds like a very generous man. All right, there's been a nomination for Frank Payne as the secretary treasurer. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? If not, we'd entertain a motion from someone that we close nominations and accept Frank Price as secretary treasurer by acclamation.
So moved.
There's been a motion. There's a second.
Second, Comer.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And that completes our slate for our upcoming meetings. And like I said, it's been my pleasure, and I appreciate the help that everybody has given me, and look forward to supporting and working with Jesse. And our next meeting, Durwood will be getting in contact with Jennifer and working with Jesse and deciding when that will be. If no one else has anything.
Madam Chair, I've got one thing.
Yes, sir.
We've all been spread around up and down the corridor, but whoever's making these slides come up appropriately, maybe that was Jennifer, I just commend her. It was a good job. Everything flowed very well.
Very much so.
It's all Jennifer. I had nothing to do with it.
Jennifer does a good job no matter what you asked her to do. And
It's a great help, and I appreciate it.
she gets it done. So thank you so
Call her
much,
almost
Jennifer.
every day. I contact her almost every day, so and she's always ready to respond and get me in the right direction, and I do.
Absolutely, and she does not mind answering dumb questions or helping you in any way she can.
That's right.
Thank you
All
all.
right, I would
You know,
entertain
I'm
them.
happy straight.
Linda, before we adjourn, Don Rance, I just want to thank you all for the nomination as vice president. I look forward to helping Jesse, but just wanted to personally thank you for the last 2 years. And we need a resolution of support for you out doing your outstanding job in these difficult circumstances of dealing with COVID-19.
Well, I appreciate that so much. It's been challenging to say the least, but like I said, between Jennifer and Durwood, you know, I think we've done pretty well considering.
One other thing, in following up with what Don said, Chairman, we do appreciate what you've done during the difficult time, and so we have a plaque going out to you today. Super 70 presented to Linda Rouse Sutton with sincere appreciation for your service, commitment, and support of the I-42 US 70 Corridor Commission. US 70 Corridor Commission of March 18th, 2021. The dates of service were January 31st, 2019 to March 18th, 2021. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's indeed been my pleasure. Real quickly, I did want to welcome our new members, Mayor Pro Tem Felicia Solomon from Kinston and Mayor Bobby Wooten from LaGrange. We're glad to have them, and I don't know if we have any other new ones or not, but anyway. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, thanks to everybody.